Well, first off, I want to say thank you for the opportunity on being able to speak and tell my story of what AA is, how it's changed my life. It's sort of funny on that signing up deal. I don't know, in the noon meeting we was in there talking, and we was talking about giving back is what it was. And I said, told a little story, and I read it in one of the AA literature books, and I can't remember what it was, which book it was, but basically what it said was the difference between a pond and a tank. A tank is something that just holds water. A pond is something that water flows in, it gives life, and then it flows out. And too many times what I feel like in AA that maybe I've just been a tank, not just absorbing and not giving back. So I said that, and Nancy at the end of the meeting, she came up and said, "Hey, there's 2 opportunities there, or opportunity to sign up on the board to start giving back." And I said, "Yeah, I'll go look at it, Nancy, and I'll take a look at it." And she said, "No, come on." And I said, "Well, all right, Nancy." And I went and looked at it, and before I knew it, she had it unpinned off the wall on the table, and she was saying, "How do you spell your name?" And I said, "Nancy, I'll put it down," and I wrote it out and all that. And I said, "Nancy, it says right here, July the 9th. I think that's over with." She said, "Oh no, Randy, I'll call Randy. Randy will take care of it. It's just old." So anyway, I'm Alan Harris, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Alan.
And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. They told me I had about 45 minutes, and I don't even know when the clock starts. So we'll see how it ends up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today or tonight on what I've too much of my drinking past and all that. I'd rather spend some time on what AA has done for me and how it's changed my life. So I want to give a pretty brief, quick history of my life, and then we'll get on to the good parts of it. I've sat in these rooms and I've listened to a lot of people for 7 years. My sobriety date is July 9th, 2015 at 10:32 p.m. And I'll talk a little bit of why I stopped at 10:32 p.m. instead of 10:33 p.m. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I have searched and looked and tried to find out how come I am an alcoholic. And you know why? What I found out? It's because of me. Because I was raised in a home, had a loving mom, a loving dad, had 2 older brothers that I don't know if they loved me, but they tolerated me. So everything was good. I mean, we didn't have everything that I wanted, but we had everything we needed, and most of the things that we wanted. So I was blessed. I had it was a Christian family that we were in. We was in church 2 times on Sunday and once on Wednesday, and we only went 3 times a week if the church wasn't open 4 times a week, and if it was, we was there. So there's nothing there that I can point and say, I had a good life. I mean, there's nothing there that You know, if Norman Rockwell was to take a picture and was looking for a perfect family, it would probably be a picture of my family. I was a collector of bottles, old bottles. And my dad done a lot of traveling with business and all that kind of stuff. And he would bring in bottles from in. And one time he came in, he had been on a flight, he brought in, and he brought, I was about 9 years old, and he brought a little bottle of Jack Daniels bottle like that because he thought it was cute. It was poured out, nothing in it. And one day I opened that bottle and I smelt of it. I was around 9 years old. And man, there was something that happened inside my head. I think that was the first time that I realized that there might be something to this alcohol stuff, you know. I was didn't drink any. I just smelled it. I was a bottle sniffer. Is what I was. I was a bottle sniffer, and I said every time my dad left, I said, "Hey, bring me back another bottle," and he would. I mean, I had that little deal of Jack Daniel bottle, and then he brought me back a monkey holding a banana that you could pull the head of the monkey off and smell, and it was rum. And that would, and he brought back a little bottle of tequila once that had a little wicker around it, and I didn't like the smell of tequila, and turns out tequila don't like me either, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that later on. But that was the first time that really I had. My parents wasn't alcoholics. There wasn't any drinking in the house. It was just that, and there was just that little point that triggered something in my thinking. When I was about 15 in November, my dad was killed in a car wreck, and that was I was in the 9th grade, and back then in Tyler, there was it wasn't middle schools. It was, you had elementary, junior highs, and high schools. So that was that was a trying time on my life. But I had my first taste of alcohol at the end of school that year. We were graduating from. We was graduating from junior high, going to go to high school, and we was going to have us a big party. So me and my buddy broke into his dad's cooler and got us 2 beers, and that's the first time I ever had any beer. Sort of fast forward, got to high school, and I didn't do a lot of things that, I was never a real good student. I think I had the ADD and the dyslexia and all that kind of stuff before it was they knew what it was. So I struggled through school. I had I could play football and I could play baseball, and we made it through high school. And there was times that we'd do what boys do, right? We'd drink, or what I thought boys done. That was it. We'd drink a little bit on the weekends. Nothing big, no problems, no trouble. I've never don't have any DWIs or any of that stuff. So it got time to graduate from high school, and like I said, my grades were not bad. I mean, it was. I tell everybody I graduated in top 100 of my class. There was like 92, and so I made it in. I think I was like in the top 92%. There was only a couple of guys that were underneath me on And a couple of them were the ones that we hung around with on the weekends. Anyway, my mom, it got time to go to college. My mom happened to know my grades wasn't good enough to get into college. So my mom had happened to know somebody that was on the Board of Regents at Texas A&M, and anyway, I ended up in College Station, and I find out pretty quick that the school schedule and my schedule were it wasn't going to work out, because I mean, they were sort of expecting you to be there Monday through Friday, and well, first off, on Friday and Saturday they had had football, so there was drinking. Sunday there was drinking. Unfortunately, they didn't have Sunday night football at the time, so we continued drinking. So basically, I felt like I could show up at school around 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and I'm not saying I had a drinking problem at all, but you had that on Mondays. You was a little late, and then Monday night football, and that threw you off on Tuesdays. Because you was up late drinking, and then Tuesdays was sort of a day of rest to recoup from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and you could rest. And Wednesdays worked out pretty good because there wasn't nothing going on Tuesday night, so Wednesdays I was able to make class. And then on Wednesday night in College Station, there was it was called Ladies' Night, and you could go to the bars and the clubs and drink pretty cheap. So that sort of messed up class on Thursday. So I was just having trouble meeting the schedule, because who wants to go to school on Friday, right? That's the start of the weekend. You don't want to tie yourself up. So basically, after about a semester, they call me in and say, "Hey, you're going to have to do a lot better than this, or you're going to go home." And I said, "Well, won't we give me one more chance and I'll do good?" They said, "We'll give you to next semester. We're going to give you half a semester to make sure you get your grades up." And I ought to have been able to get my grades up, because I was taking the same classes that I took before, but this time I was determined I was going to go. Well, it didn't work out. So I didn't go, and they decided that I had pretty much taught them everything I needed to teach them in a semester and a half, and they sent me home. And that was the first time that really in my life that I had an idea that I may have a little problem with alcohol, because it was starting to affect, well, y'all know, I mean, it starts to affect everything outside, I heard something one time. Can I take a little study right here? I want to see if this study's right. How many of you in here remember the first drink you ever had? How many of you remember the first Coca-Cola you ever drank? They told me that was a pretty good sign that maybe there may be a problem there, and that's so. And you know how we are, or how I am. That alcohol was sort of the focus of my life. But I decided, well, I don't know if I decided or my mom decided or somebody decided that, hey, you're getting a job. You ain't staying here at the house. They done kicked you out of college. If you stay here, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to get a job. I was fine with that. I got a job. Well, the job I got was a construction job, and I started thinking that maybe I needed to cut back on all this drinking, and I did. I cut back on it. In fact, I quit drinking. I put it with no problem at all. I quit. And the good Lord blessed me. And I always, in some of the things I say tonight, I'm just telling my story, and I'm just telling what the good Lord has done for me, and that I truly believe it's a good thing the good Lord loves a dumbass, because he has been very good to me, right? Because I have done a lot of stupid stuff, but it always seems that even through what I've done, my higher power has always been there to sort of help me along. So I get this job. I become and this is going to be real quick. I become a welder, learn how to weld a bunch of junk and all kinds of metallurgies and all this. And they start traveling. I start traveling. They're sending me all over the country, and I'm making a daggum good living, right? I mean, I'm doing good. I ain't drinking. And then I decide to get married, and I do, and I guess you fall in love, and you get married, have a kid, then you get married or whatever. However, and everything's sort of just hunky-dory, right? I mean, I'm not drinking. I've had it. I don't have a drinking problem. Because I'm not. There's probably like a 12 year period there, that in that 12 years I may have had, and this is honest. This ain't me talking to a doctor when the doctor says how many beers you drank, right? This is honest. Probably 12 beers in that time frame. There was no draw at all. So I had control of it. Anyway, I'm working all this. My wife decides that she likes the money, but she wanted me not to be traveling anymore. And but I had to keep on. And then she decided that she liked the money, and didn't really care if I was at home anymore or not. And then she decides, we end up getting a divorce, and things are, things get a little different. I go my way, I'm working, I've got 3 boys. Good boys, grown up, they're great kids. And I was working, and they kept us in these hotels, and I'd come in off work sometimes, and anyway, I decided I was gonna quit. I was gonna work things out, so I quit. I went back to school here, and I got a bachelor's of science in industrial health and safety, and I was gonna work around here in Tyler, and I got a call, and I ended up in Florida, and I was working, and some of these would come back to the hotel, and I'd come back, and they'd be right there at the restaurant bar type deal, and they say, "Hey, you want a cold beer?" And I said, "No, I'm good. And I'd go, and I'd order supper and get a shower, and they'd bring my supper, and I'd eat, and I'd go to bed, get up, go to work. So I don't know, probably 2 or 3 months after that divorce stuff was finalized, I was walking in, and they said, and every night it's the same thing. "Hey, Alan, you want cold beer?" No, and I said, yeah, I do. And I walked in, and I had a beer. And then I had another beer. And I said, you know, these guys at that point, they were working with me or for me, and I didn't want, you know, I preached pretty hard about, all right, by 10 o'clock you need to have it shut off, and you need to be at work at 7 o'clock, and, you know, in being shaped to work. So I'd go to the room, and I thought about it. And I went down, I left the room, I went down, hopped in the truck, went down, and I bought I was going to buy a 6-pack of beer, because I figured, well, if I drank 2 in the restaurant and then 1 in the room, you know, that's 3 beers, there ain't no problem with that. And I thought, well, you know what, why not, why don't I get a 12-pack, then that way I don't have to make as many trips, and this be good. And anyway, I walked out of there with about I don't know, about 24 beers, and I took them to the room, and it got me. You know, I went from drinking pretty heavy in high school, real heavy in college, and quitting just like that, to being right back where I was in college. And it was, I had a good job, a real good job, making good money. And I knew that I had to figure out a way that I could hold that job and do that drinking. And that's where I think as I get to it, when I hit my bottom may be different than everybody else's. And that sort of, I became a planner. I became a planner of how to drink and also work. And, you know, I got pretty good at it. You know, we and the funny thing about it was, see, I was, if y'all caught it earlier, I said I had a degree in industrial health and safety. So what I was the safety guy for the whole job. And that's probably one of the reasons I'd never had no drug problems at all. And, you know, some of that is because I didn't want to, and the other part is because, you know, we drug tested everybody, but we didn't alcohol test at that time. But anyway, about 3 or 4 years into that, I meet a lady, and we hit it off, and we end up getting married, and that was in 2003. 2003, we got married, and I decided I was leaving that company and I was starting my own. I'm gonna give you a little hint. Don't plan a wedding and starting a company and trying to manage alcohol all in the same time, because I can tell you, it's very, very, very difficult to keep everything together. My wife, and she's my wife, and again, thank the good Lord for loving dumbasses, that she is still my wife today. But so as I moved, I started this company, and things got startup businesses. Sometimes it's sort of tough, and but I had an alcohol problem, right? And I needed alcohol. So there was days there, I say days, like months, that we ate. Anybody know about Totino pizzas? Totino's pizzas in 2003 were 99 cents a piece. And we would buy 2 Totino pizzas, and we would split one for lunch, and we would split one for supper. all the other money was going for beer. I mean, that's screwed up, ain't it? I mean, it's screwed up. I mean, what? And this woman, she stuck with me and didn't grapple about it much. And so if they ain't grappling, there ain't no problems, right? So we go on and we're again, it's a good thing the good Lord loves a dumbass, because the company finally started working out and things started clicking, and things really changed. We went from 99-cent pizzas to going to Burger King and getting $5 Whoppers with the, so things were getting better, and things, I told myself I was drinking so much because things wasn't good. But things started getting better, and I was drinking because, hell, things are good now, right? So it's all right. So as we make it past that, when we grow and the company takes off, and it's doing good, and we decide, or she decides, or I had 3 kids, boys, with the previous marriage, and she decides we want to have kids, right? So and I agree. Yeah, that's great. So we we've made it through that deal, and we seem to not be griping too much about the drinking anymore, but maybe not. Maybe I had just gotten used to the griping, and so I was a little bit better with it. But anyway, we have a kid, a little girl, a gorgeous girl. I mean, and she's still gorgeous. But my wife tells me, this kind of stuff is like stuff you should have talked about before you got married, or for sure before you had kids, when you're married to somebody like me, right? She said, "Hey, my dad was an alcoholic, and I'm not raising my girl around an alcoholic father." And I said, "Well, hell, we ain't got no problem, because I ain't no alcoholic, so we're good." Well, she didn't see it that way. So we had a little tough time there, and and I didn't really. And this building here, Randy, you know how long y'all been in this building? It's
1955.
55, okay. Because I remember driving by here when I was I graduated from high school in 1982. So I remember driving by and noticing that it was an AA, and that's about the only thing I knew. I knew there was an AA building with a bunch of drunks hung around in here, but I didn't know anything else about AA. Oh, and I want to tell y'all something. And like I said, I do a lot of traveling around, and there's never any excuse for not being able to find a AA. I won't give a meeting, because I can give you a hint, and you don't even have to Google it. You can just drive down the road, and when you see a bunch of people standing outside smoking, I can assure you an AA meeting is about to start. You can just pull in there. They're easy to find. I've spotted them in California, Louisiana, Mississippi, Washington State, every place. That's the easiest way. Or now you can just Google. But so they're easy to find, so there's no excuses not to be at a AA meeting. And I used to do a lot of traveling in this past 7 years, and spent a lot of time in AA rooms outside of this one. But so let's get back. My wife's thinking I'm an alcoholic, and I'm not thinking I'm an alcoholic. I said I'm not an alcoholic, and so after about 3 years of Alan, you're an alcoholic. I started thinking, well, maybe I am an alcoholic, So I start a original plan of Alan Harris that I think is really, really great. And I mean, this plan, nobody else has ever come up with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drinking a little bit less here and a little bit less here, and then nobody will ever know that my wife ought to be happy, because I figure if I only drank 3 beers a day, that'd be good. Well, the 3 beers a day is not, I mean, that's sort of cutting yourself short. So it didn't really work very good for very long. I don't think it even worked the first time. Well, I know it didn't, because it just didn't work. And then, so I thought, well, what I need to do is I can have 3 beers. I'll have 3 beers before supper and have some wine with supper. And then I can have some whiskey or bourbon after supper, and that'll work. And that turned out that didn't work very well either. And then so I try all those steps, and I find out that all I had to do was read a big book, and it had all that stupid stuff in there that I was doing, everybody else was doing, and it didn't work for them either. So I started drinking pretty heavy. My liquor of choice was a beer, and that was my choice as long as I had beer, and if I didn't, then I drank wine or whiskey or whatever. The only thing I would not drink is tequila, and the reason why from smelling that bottle, when I was a bottle sniffer, right? From smelling that bottle of tequila to that day of when I was drinking, I could smell it and get sick. Before, the other stuff you had to drink a little bit before you got sick. That tequila, well, man, it was bad for me. I was allergic to it. Fortunately, I wasn't allergic to anything else, right? So I had decided that I am an alcoholic, and that my wife knew that I was an alcoholic, and that I was going to stay an alcoholic. And then she started calling me, and I had decided that I'm good on being an alcoholic, and she decided that you're drunk. And man, that pissed me off when she called me a drunk. How can I be a drunk? I run, and again, I'm just saying my story. I run multi-million-dollar corporations. How can I be a drunk? But after hearing it, I started thinking, and I was, and I got to where I was off less beer, more whiskey, and well, not less beer, about the same amount of beer, and then whiskey. So, and when I hit the whiskey, I got mean, and I was mean. I was mean, and I was bad, and I was mean to everybody that was close to me. I was mean to. Hell, my dadgum dog, I had a cow dog that loved me. I mean, and she's still alive too. She still loves me. But as long as I was drinking beer, that dog would come up to me. But once I started drinking the whiskey, that dog would head for the barn. And because that stupid dog knew that as I drank that stuff, the meaner I got. Every morning I'd be in the shower and I'd say, "Dear Lord, I'm not ever doing that again. I'm never drinking again. I'm never drinking again." And every day, by 5 o'clock, I was right back at it. One night at the house, things got really bad, and I said some things that I shouldn't have said, and done some things that I shouldn't have done. And anyway, I crawled in bed that night all by myself, and I woke up the next morning, and I decided, hey, I need help. So I get up, I walk in and tell my wife, I said, hey, I'm gonna check myself into rehab. And she said, it's a damn good thing you are, because I was about to pack the girls up and we were leaving. So she was done. We called and set one up, and like I said, I was blessed. I was going out to California, and they said, we got a spot for you, come on. And I said, well, I can't come. Like right now, I've got my grandbaby. They're going to tell me if it's a boy or a girl, and I'm going to stay for that. And that was on July the 9th, 2015. We had a gender reveal party and all that, and I drank a lot that day. And anyway, poor planning on my part. I ran out of cold beer at 10:32 on July the 9th, and that's how come I didn't have a beer on the at 33. But during that time, that guy had told me, the doctor had told me, he said, all right, you can come on the 9th. He said, but I'm going to tell you one thing. He said, do not stop a thing that you're doing. Continue doing what you're doing until you get here, because he had asked me, I don't know, like 100 and some odd questions, it seemed like. And he was in California. I was in Tyler over the phone. He pretty well knew I was an alcoholic. And he said, do not stop doing what you're doing on your drinking, because he said you got a pretty bad problem, and if you do something, your body ain't gonna be able to handle it. So me, doctors have told me a lot of things all my life, and I hadn't believed them. So what I decided is, I got to go to this place for 30 days. I've got things to do. It's July the 1st. I can go ahead and start, and I can be in pretty good shape by the time I get there on the 10th. That knocks off almost 9 days there. That I can be back home 9 days. All I have to do, I'll just stop drinking now and shave time off, and I'm saving everybody time and money. Well, so I decided I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit drinking, and you know what? I've done it. I stopped. I stopped cold turkey. About 4 o'clock in the morning the next day, I wake up and I am in a bind. I'm hurting. I'm able to move. I'll get to the bathroom, and it's not a good scene there. And anyway, I get back to the bed, and we're there, and I'm hurting bad. And the next day, that afternoon, my wife walks in and says, "Hey, I'm calling the ambulance because you're about to die." And I said, "Hey," I said, "before you call the ambulance, let's call that doctor out there in California and see what he says." And this goes back to, I think the good Lord has had his hand on me my whole life in knowing what I needed. So the doctors, we get a hold of them, and my wife tells me, hey, he quit drinking, and I told him not to do that, and she said, well, yeah, I've told him a lot of things my whole life too, and he don't listen. So anyway, and he says, well, he's got I don't know, she asked, she takes my blood pressure and all that, and he says, got two options. You can either call the ambulance and have them come get you, or you can give him a cold beer. Well, there's something I hadn't said tonight. There was nobody in my family except for my lovely bride and my two lovely daughters that knew I was an alcoholic. I was one of them guys that never ran the bars, never done any of that. I done it all at the house, which is even worse. But I said, hey, I am not going to the hospital in Tyler, Texas when my mama finds out. It would be hell to pay. I said, go get me a cold beer. And I still had them in the refrigerator, and she went down there and she got one. And I'm going to tell you, that's step one. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. I'd never heard of step one. But step one was burned into my heart and into my brain, because she gave me a beer, and I drank that beer, and as soon as it hit my body, things started to get better. By beer number 4, I wasn't 100%, but I was up there, around 80%. I was feeling better. And for the first time in my life, I realized, hey, I wasn't drinking because I wanted to. I was drinking because I had to. And that feeling of knowing that burned into me, and again, not knowing anything about Alcohol Anonymous. So, what I do, I'm under doctor's orders now, so pretty much what I do is I stay drunk from the time till it's time to get on that airplane, or until 10:32 the day before I get on the airplane because I ran out of beer. I get on, so I'm headed to the rehab center, and I'm gonna speed this up. And I get there, and they start talking. They give me some stuff, and so my mind was set. They took care of my physical body, but I knew I needed something spiritual to take me to that next step, because I'd quit drinking before, but I'd always started back drinking. And I knew I had to find something that I wasn't going to drink anymore. And we went through, they said, I tell you how screwed up I was. We were sitting in one of these, everybody talking, and they were saying, well, the best thing to do is just not do what you was doing. Anything that you done when you was drinking, you don't need to do it. Well, I started sitting there thinking, hell, the only thing I'd done that when I wasn't drinking was I was sleeping. I bought a stupid riding lawnmower, and I still have that riding lawnmower. It had nothing to do with money. And my yard is like, I don't know, 4 acres. And I was going to get me one of them zero-turn radius mowers, I was down at the John Deere house going to get me one of them, and I sat down in the seat on that thing, and I could not figure out how to turn that thing and drink a beer and mow the yard. So what I done was, I went and got an old-timey, just an old tractor, old-timey one, that's a lot slower, still have that thing. Every time I get on that lawnmower to this day, I think, man, what a dumbass you was to let liquor make decisions for you like that. And as we look back, as I look back on my life, there's so many decisions that I let liquor make those for me. I was having troubles with deciding where I wanted to go. My first AA meeting, after 10 days, they let me out of this where I could be where I needed, where I could get out. Went to AA meeting in California, and if you've never been to an AA meeting in California, they're a little different than us. They have well, the one I was in pretty well had a rule that if you come in, you can't say diddly poop for 45 days. You just sit there and listen. And I remember my first AA meeting. I had a driver, and I got back in the car, and he was driving me back to the rehab center, and I was sitting there thinking, man, that was not very motivational at all. You know, everybody in there was talking about, you know, losing the wives and the dogs, and the dog died, and somebody stole the bicycle, and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, man, because really when I walked in, I thought that it would be something that really got me pumped up and ready to, you know, take on the day. But it was, what you heard in there was life. What you heard in there was true stories of what alcohol had done to people. And it made me realize, man, how close I was to just being on the edge of those, to losing everything. And as I started listening in these steps, man, I love these steps, and I try to live them and try to do every step every day, to go back and to look. And that step 12 basically goes back to why I'm up here today, because, you know, I just want to give back what AA has given to me. I'm running out of time, so I'm trying to make this. But what I believe, and I know that without AA and these programs and people in these rooms and hearing and sharing the stories that y'all go through, the things that I've gone through, that makes us all stronger. And I'm going to end with this. I call it a movie, my favoriteest movie in the world, and my wife says it's not a daggum movie, it's a mini series. And I said, whatever. It's a Lonesome Dove. You got old Gus McCrae and Woodrow McCall, they're riding on a horse, they're leaving Lonesome Dove, and Woodrow's talking about, man, everything that we're leaving behind and how things were. And Gus says these words. He says, hell, Woodrow, it ain't dying I'm talking about. It's living. And I think that's the message of AA. It's not dying we're talking about. It's the living, the lives, the changes in our lives after we get away from all the alcohol. That is what makes the difference. So that's pretty much all I got, Randy. And I appreciate y'all's time, and I only went 1 minute and 10 seconds over. So that's all I got. Thank y'all.